What did you find in the safe?
Old computer files.
Bunch of crazy shit. Monster shit.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and this is all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in the first two episodes of Monarch, Legacy of Monsters. Now, it's been nearly 10 years since the first Monsterverse movie came out, so here is a very quick recap in case you don't remember every single thing that's happened in those movies.
Well, I'll let you two catch up.
In the 1970s, the extra-governmental organization Monarch discovers King Kong on Skull Island, but they largely leave him alone after discovering he's keeping the island's ecosystem in check.
That checks out.
In 2014, Godzilla is revealed to the world when he chases two parasitic mudos, that's short for massive unidentified terrestrial organisms, from Japan to San Francisco, and ultimately kills them, though not before destroying most of San Francisco. Then, in 2019, a group of eco-terrorists release all of the monsters, believing that it'll reverse climate change, but the biggest monster, Monster Zero, is actually an alien monster who wants to use his alpha status to destroy the whole planet. So Godzilla, with a little nuclear help from the humans and from his wife, Mothra, defeats Monster Zero and forces all the monsters back into dormancy. Then, in 2024, King Kong moved to a containment facility because Skull Island's storm system changed, and it's no longer isolated. Monarch knows that there can't be two alpha predators, and Godzilla is gonna come for Kong. They have a few fights, Godzilla nearly kills him, but then they team up when an AI monster, Mechagodzilla, starts destroying Hong Kong. They kill Mecha and then part with begrudging respect for each other. God, I love that movie. And also, in that movie, they discover the Earth is hollow, and there's a whole ecosystem in the center of the Earth which King Kong makes his new home. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get started on this breakdown.
Let them fight.
So episode 1 opens up with Super 8 footage, and we've actually already seen this online from the promotional website monarchunlock.info. Now the website looks like a whistleblower website with just simple titles and files, and this is the first file labeled Top Secret. And we've also seen this character before. This is Bill Randa, the head of Monarch and Kong Skull Island. So this is shot during the first expedition of Skull Island, and he's talking to his son, Hiroshi Randa.
You may never forgive me for what I took from you, and I can't go back in time and fix all the mistakes I made. But maybe I could leave something for the future.
Now that makes him the grandfather of our two leads, Kate and Kentaro. And this isn't the first time we've seen this creature either. It's called a mother longlegs, and it first appeared in Kong Skull Island when it goes through this guy. And when he runs over to the edge of the shore, a giant crab emerges. Now, it's not the exact same as the trapdoor crab we see in Skull Island, but it's close enough that I wonder if it might be the same species or at least related.
Coincidence? I think not!
He throws his files into the water, and we time skip to 2013 Japan, where they are found by this fisherman.
Hey, person, what's Monarch?
Hey, good question, Doug. Monarch is an organization that studies mudos. President Truman formed them in 1946 to study Godzilla.
Or why'd they start then?
Well, he woke up after the bombing of Nagasaki. Now, they eventually lured him to the Bikini Atoll and tried to kill him with a nuke, but it only made him go dormant.
Okay, got it.
All right, so back to the show. The opening credits are rife with Easter eggs. First of all, notice how everything is mirrored. It's a visual representation of Hiroshi's double life, but I also think that it relates to the hollow Earth tunnels. The opening map is the same one we see on Hiroshi's office wall, and then, when it gets populated with red dots, it's very similar to the map we see in King of Monsters.
How many of these things are there?
17. And counting.
So my guess is that every dot represents a Titan location. Then we get these Monarch files with the new ones on the left and the older ones on the right. This scratched out style was also used in the Godzilla opening credits, and this document on the left is actually talking about the Bikini Atoll test that attempted to kill Godzilla. Now you can see Bikini Atoll written down here at the bottom. There are also several mentions of gamma radiation on the document, which is important because one of the leaked files on the Monarch Unlocked is a blurry photo showing a gamma monitoring in Alaska.
Funny. Yes, but not funny, haha. Funny, weird.
Then on the right, there is Leland Shaw's state badge. The next file looks like a biological report on a mudo, but we can't be sure which one. The next file on the left mentions Monarch Outpost, and at the bottom, the only word that isn't blacked out says Antarctica, which is a reference to Monster Zero, who is trapped in the ice in King of Monsters.
Seems to be another apex predator.
And I quote it, Monster Zero.
Then we see Hiroshi's two different families. On the left is Kate and her mom, and on the right is Kentaro and his mother. We also see a giant pit with light coming out of it in the middle of snow, which has to be another reference to Monster Zero. So this show takes place between the events of the first Godzilla and Godzilla, King of the Monsters. And with all these references to Monster Zero, I think we're going to find out why Monarch ended up in Senate hearings and how its top scientists turned to eco-terrorism. Then we see an old-fashioned Geiger counter, a tool used to measure radiation, which the Titans produce. And then we get a ton of passports passport stamps. So on the left, we have Thailand, Turkey, and Tristan da Cunha, the most remote inhabited island in the world. On the right, there's France, Germany, and Hong Kong. The next page has Egypt, Malaysia, and Trinidad and Tobago. On the right, there's Ukraine, Beijing, and another Malaysian stamp.
Why are there two Malaysian stamps?
Because they do customs on entry and exit. Nice catch by the showrunners, really good attention to detail.
Great job!
Yes, great job.
Now from the map in King of the Monsters, we know some of these locations have titans. Germany has Methuselah, Egypt has Sekhmet, and China has Mothra, and hopefully we'll get to see some of those titans in their full glory later in the season. Next, we get two skylines. On the left, it's San Francisco, and on the right, it's Tokyo. Now this just could be another depiction of Hiroshi's double life, but I really think it's related to the hollow tunnels they established in King of the Monsters, but more on that in a bit. Then we see a set of keys representing how Kate and Kentaro each had a set of keys for the lock. There are two calendars, one with the year 1952 and the other with the year 2015. Now 1952 is the year that Lee Shaw, Bill Randa, and Keiko Mira all met, and 2015 is when Kate and Kentaro meet. There's two overhead shots of different cities and a giant bird titan flies across both. Now originally we thought this was a reference to Rodan from King of the Monsters, but in 2015 he'd be dormant, so I think it has to be the titan that we see at the end of episode 2. Then there's a gas mask. On one side that's the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, and on the other is the Rainbow Bridge in Tokyo. Then suddenly there's a warning sign in both English and Russian. Now this could be a reference to Shaw, Randa, and Mira, who see a warning sign in Kazakhstan that's written in Russian, or it could be a reference to the Titan Amalek, who is also in Russia. These are the eggs that hatch and kill Keiko. Now there are two Monarch signs, and the one on the left has a watery texture which could refer to Castle Bravo, the monitoring station for Godzilla. And the last image we see is Godzilla looking over both Tokyo and San Francisco, which again relates to the hollow tunnels. Also, it's directed by Matt Shackman, who you may know is the producer and director of WandaVision. We open on Kate Randa, granddaughter of Bill Randa, landing in Japan. Now when she sees the Godzilla evacuation plan, she has a flashback to the attack on San Francisco. Now the bridge scene in Godzilla is one of the biggest scenes in the whole movie, with the iconic Golden Gate Bridge coming down. And those school buses were actually evacuation buses, mainly loaded with kids whose parents were frontline workers like Elle Brody.
She's gonna look after you just for a little bit. Daddy's gonna be here soon, and I'm gonna just come get you right after. I promise.
So Kate was probably tasked with escorting those kids to safety when Godzilla attacked. Now from her passport stamp we get the date, April 1st, 2015. So it's been less than a year since the Godzilla attack. As Kate rides in a taxi around Tokyo, there are multiple signs for evacuation plans, as well as giant missiles on some of the bridges.
Yeah, why was Tokyo so afraid of an attack when they were all the way on the other side of the world?
Well, there's two reasons, right? There's an in-universe reason and a more meta reason.
It's meta now!
The in-universe reason is because Japan and California share an ocean, and the last sighting of Godzilla was him disappearing into the Pacific Ocean. Now, I'm pretty sure Godzilla can go anywhere he wants, but Japan has more reason to be concerned than, like, say, New York City. But the meta reason is because Godzilla was a reaction to the nuking of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In the original movie, the bombings are mentioned several times. And Godzilla is basically the atomic bomb personified. He is a creature that can level entire cities, constantly leaks radiation, and sets things on fire with his atomic breath. The taxi driver then says that,
Musa breath. Big business now.
And that is a reference to Apex, the company that makes Mechagodzilla. And after claiming that San Francisco was a hoax, he says that he has a podcast, which has to be a reference to Bernie in Godzilla-verse Kong.
Today's the day. Maybe the last podcast I ever record. And look, I know I said that last week.
Right after Kate discovers that her dad had a double life, we cut to Kazakhstan in 1959, where we meet Lee Shaw and Kate's grandparents, Bill and Keiko Randa. Lee says that
being able to keep Monarch together, that's no small feat.
Which is interesting because in 1973, Monarch was on the verge of shutting down.
Monarch is on the cusp of being shut down, Brooks. We're broke.
So I'm wondering what happened in those 14 years that caused its downfall. Bill also says,
we come back proving the network is real, and then our theory's not just some insane fantasy.
Now they don't say what the network is, but my guess is that it's these hollow tunnels that we mentioned earlier. Now the group is going towards the radiation.
Why would they do that?
Well, because radiation is a great way to track titans. Most titans consume radiation, so radiation levels around them are unusually low.
Every time there's a small spike, it fades away like it's been absorbed by something.
But high amounts of radiation almost always attract them, and they leave a path of radiation in their wake. So find radiation, you find a titan.
That's simple.
That simple.
When they get to the epicenter of the no radiation zone, they see these eggs. They aren't the exact same, but they're really similar to the Muto eggs in Godzilla. Given that these Mutos were parasites and not Titans, the eggs could very well be that same species, especially because they look so creepy crawly moving around. Then we cut back to Japan in 2015, where, after a Godzilla drill, Kate and Kentaro find a safe in their dad's office and discover that he was living yet another secret life.
Or wouldn't that be really hard? And how did he even live a double life when Tokyo and San Francisco are so far away?
And now we can finally talk about our hollow tunnel theory.
It's finally happening!
So, in King of Monsters, it is established that the Earth is filled with hollow tunnels that Titans use to get around. But the hollow Earth idea has been around for decades. In Kong, Bill Randa specifically takes Brooks to Skull Island to prove the hollow Earth theory.
When I first wrote that paper on the hollow Earth theory, the whole committee laughed out loud.
Not Randa.
The one guy in the crowd who actually took me seriously.
And on a map, Tokyo and San Francisco are almost directly across from each other. So what if Hiroshi found out about the hollow tunnels from his dad and then used them to travel from Tokyo to San Francisco? Now, the only problem is that some of these tunnels are extremely radioactive, but it seems like Apex was able to retrofit one for fast travel, so maybe Hiroshi found his way around that.
Yes, science!
But back to his children. Behind the map, they find a Monarch bag. Kate recognizes the symbol, but Kentaro has no idea what it is, which means that Monarch is not in the public eye. Now that's surprising because, by King of the Monsters, Monarch is undergoing Senate hearings. People still don't know what information they have, but they are known as an organization. And then, by the time of Godzilla vs. Kong, they are actively helping recovery efforts. And because of the stylization of Monarch Unlocked, I think this show is going to chart how Monarch became public. So when they get made to unlock all the files, we see yet another Easter egg from Monarch Unlocked. This map is really confusing, but let me break down and give you our theory. The base layer is just a map of the world. There you can see Australia, Africa, and on the other side, South America, etc. Above that, though, there's this curving grid system, and that's everything that says A1, A2, and so on. Now there's one for the Eastern Hemisphere and another for the Western Hemisphere. And then there's these lines for different spots. Now that could be Titan sightings, or it could be hollow tunnels. We're just not really sure. And then there's the letter Q scattered about, and that's a type of rating system. In another picture from Monarch Unlocked, we see a partial document that says grades into QF. Also, both of these documents mention malachite, and before it's mined, malachite glows blue like the deposits we see from the Titan at the end of episode 2. So I think this map is using malachite deposits as a way to track Titans and map the systems of tunnels that they are using. And then we find out that Hiroshi wasn't with Kate on G-Day. She didn't see him until 5 days after, when he said he had to go to Alaska.
About a week after that, we got a call from the state police in Fairbanks, Alaska, saying the bush plane he was on disappeared in a storm.
Now, from Monarch Unlocked, we know that they were monitoring gamma levels in Alaska, so I really think that there is another Titan there. So the show ends with the tragic and gruesome death of Keiko. And you know, I was going to say it was unrealistic for Bill to go from this to this in 13 years, but after seeing that death, it all makes sense. And now on to episode 2. We open in Manila in 1952, so a few things to note here. One, this is 2 years before the Castle Bravo bombing, so Godzilla is still active. And 2, the Philippines is a hub for Muto activity. The original parasite Muto from the first movie hatched in the Philippines in 1999. Now Shaw is placed on military escort for Dr. Keiko Mira. When she tells him she's investigating reports of radioactive isotopes in the Philippine Sea, he says,
"That's pretty far south for a Russian bomb test, huh?"
Now, this is important because it establishes how the Cold War directly influenced the Monarch, and we also saw this in Kong. Kong takes place in 1973, right as the Vietnam War was ending. The only reason the government even approved an expedition to Skull Island is because they wanted to map it before Russia did.
The Russian Novsat passes over this sector, and in 3 days, they're gonna have the same images we have, so whatever's there, you want us to find it first.
So I'm wondering if Monarch's original purpose was to provide the US with information about Titans that they could try to weaponize against the Soviet Union. And we go back to Tokyo 2015, where Kentaro is distraught and looking through his father's office. When he opens a locked drawer, he finds a set of documents about Lee Shaw. But these documents were actually already leaked on Monarch Unlocked. Assuming this site already exists on the world of the show, then someone else broke in and leaked them, or later on, Kentaro leaks them himself. Maybe May even helps him. But we do get to see something we haven't seen before. When Kentaro lifts the brochure, it says that the retirement home was established in 1974, the year after the Skull Island expedition. In the after credits of Kong, the two protagonists, James Comrade and Mason Weaver, are held by Monarch and say,
"We get it. There was no island we were
and ever on an island.
So what if Monarch created this retirement home as an asset containment for members of the Skull Island expedition? The tape Kentaro finds is labeled Philippines 52, so it's the exact tape from the flashbacks. Kate stopped at the train station by the Monarch agent that we saw in episode 1, Tim. And one thing you just gotta love about this show is that there are a ton of little details to remind you that you are in a post-Godzilla world. Like, look at the screens behind Kate. They move seamlessly between regular ads and Godzilla evacuation plans. It's a small thing, but it makes the world feel so much more real. Also, we loved when she threw her phone at him to escape. Now, back in 1952, we finally meet Bill, who isn't following radiation, but rather folklore. Now, folklore is very important in the Monsterverse.
Myth is our compass.
All of these monsters come out of myth, or rather, myth was made out of them. It's like the Eternals. Athena wasn't based on Athena, Athena was based on her, and the Titans work the same way. So because of that, they have defeated monsters by using myths. In King of the Monsters, they figure out that Monster Zero is actually King Ghidorah by reading mythological texts, and that's why he's not behaving like other Titans. So, folklore could be the key to defeating the Dragon Titan at the end of episode 2. Bill also says that the fire-breathing dragon is actually leaving a path of ionized radiation, and it's not exact, but it feels like a callback to the original 1954 Godzilla. He had atomic breath, but anytime he aimed it at anything, it would immediately catch on fire. We find out that Bill Randa was actually the person who coined the term Mudo, which is a fun bit of lore after using the term for 10 years.
Massive, unidentified terrestrial organisms.
And to that, Keiko says,
Terrestrial. So, you don't think they're space aliens?
And I think that's a reference to the myth of Monster Zero. In King of the Monsters, they never specify where the myth originated, just that it was vaguely Eastern.
It tells of a great dragon who fell from the stars.
So it's very possible that Keiko heard it and thought that all the monsters came from the stars. Back in 2015 Tokyo, Kate is on the run, and Kentaro is talking to his mom about his father. His mom says that Hiroshi was 18 when his father died in Vietnam. Now, Vietnam was the cover for the Skull Island expedition. For many of the soldiers, it was their last mission before going home, and it seems like Monarch used that as a cover for their deaths. So when Monarch bursts into their house, Kentaro's mom slips him a photo of Lee as a signal to run. And look, she definitely knows more than she's letting on. First of all, she just doesn't seem that shocked or upset about her husband having an entire other life. But then, also, to give him the picture while the government agents are at the house, it's likely that she knew what Hiroshi was doing all along. Going back to 1952, Bill and Keiko discover the USS Lawton, a ship that went down 5,000 miles away.
Oh yeah, how'd it get there?
The tunnels, Doug. It's all about the tunnels. In Godzilla-verse Kong, the scientist Nathan Lin says,
"You always believed that Skull Island was like hollow Earth come to the surface, right?
Things are just showing up here, but they're being pulled through the tunnels. The USS Lawton was attacked by a Titan and then dragged across the world with them. When they go inside, we see the inside of the ship through the Super 8 camera, and this was another one of the leaked documents from Monarch Unlocked. Again, assuming the website exists in the world, either someone had to steal it or it has to be Kentaro who leaked it, because this film is found in a hard copy with Hiroshi's files. It couldn't have been hacked online. Someone had to have that physical copy. In Tokyo 2015, May, Kate, and Kentaro are all on the run. When May gets her emergency bag, we see this maroon passport. So this is a pre-Brexit English passport. It could be a fake passport, like she implies, or she could have dual citizenship. Back in 1952, Bill and Keiko see this glowing radioactive stone. Now, this isn't the first time we have seen this stone. Kong's axe is made from the same material in Godzilla-verse Kong, but it also looks like malachite before it's been mined. Given the malachite mentions in the Monarch Unlocked documents, my guess is that these monsters created malachite themselves, or their radioactive material becomes malachite. May, Kate, and Kentaro arrive at the retirement home, and finally we see Lee Shaw, who's played by Kurt Russell, the real-life father of Wyatt Russell. And then we get to see the new Titan in all of its glory. This Titan is entirely new for this show. In King of Monsters, we're shown the location of all 17 Titans they know of, and none of them are in the Philippines. Now, of course, the Titan could have moved, but it's unlikely. And since we've already mentioned myths, I think this Titan is based on Minakawa, a dragon-like bird in Philippine mythology. The legend of the Minakawa came from the Bagabo people, the indigenous group of Mindanao where this scene is set. Minakawa is known for his steel beak and claws and razor-sharp feathers. The legend says that he caused the first eclipse by eating the moon moon, but then dropped it when people began screaming. Now, every day, he chases the moon through 8 holes, and if you look at the radiation path, there are 8 bends. Bill also says the path is
more like migrating birds.
So that's everything we caught, and big shout out to the writer of this video, Brianna McLarty. She did a fantastic job. How well researched. Give her a round of applause. You can follow her on socials below and me as well. So, did you guys catch anything you missed? What other monsters are you excited for? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments or at either of us on our socials. And if it's your first time here, be sure to subscribe and smash the bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.